afternoon, lovely people of YouTube. Welcome back to the Maverick Baking Kitchen and to another recipe video. I'm finally trying to be regular with these things, being a baking channel. Well done me. Today I want to talk you through a cake that is dark, damp, delectable, super chocolatey, and gonna hit every single booze, chocolate and cake craving your mouth has ever had. I promise. That's a big promise though. I'm going to be showing you today how to make this chocolate Guinness cake. This requires hardly any hands-on time, just a little bit of stirring and a little bit of patience, and you can have a gorgeous little kind of afternoon tea cake or just something to power you through the midweek slump. Plus, I have a secret. This cake is completely vegan, but shh. Let me show you how I make this chocolate Guinness cake. So this cake is a fairly straightforward one to make. Despite the absence of butter or eggs or any other kind of animal products, this one is fairly simple, and for that I am very grateful. So we're gonna start, as usual, with a big ass bowl, because every good recipe begins with a big ass bowl. So into this big ass bowl, we are going to put all of our dry ingredients. Then we're just gonna mix in the wet ones, we're gonna bake them, and then we're gonna eat them. So let's go. Let's start with the dry ingredients. Okay, here are our dry ingredients. I thought it was best to skip over footage of me just pouring things into a bowl. If you want that kind of content, please let me know because I can provide plenty of it. Okay, so in our dry ingredients, we have self-raising flour. I don't know if this is available in every country. If not, just up your raising agents, which I'll talk about in a second. So self-raising flour is flour that already has raising agents such as baking powder or bicarbonate of soda already in it. Wonderful. Makes my lazy life much easier. Alongside that, we have some soft light brown sugar. Now this is very different from demerara sugar. Any excuse to say that word and I take it. This is very kind of soft, very finely milled sugar. You can use either the dark or the light brown. I just had light brown in the cupboard, so that's what I'm using. Alongside that, you're going to want a hefty amount of cocoa powder. Cocoa powder, not to be confused with kind of hot chocolate or drinking chocolate. This is just the straight up stuff that wouldn't taste particularly nice if you just mixed it with milk. Trust me, I've tried it. Along with that, we have a hefty pinch of some nice salt because that's just my favorite ingredient on the planet. And we also have some baking powder, just a tiny extra little bit because this is a very kind of damp cake. And the more moisture you have in a cake, typically the more raising agent you need. Otherwise it will just kind of go and cower under the weight of all that mighty liquid. So here are our dry ingredients. We're gonna whisk these together and then we'll get on to the wet. So I'm just going to use a standard kind of balloon whisk and literally just whisk them up. This not only helps to mix things, it helps to get rid of any of those finer little lumps in the cocoa powder or in the flour. So now that that is all nicely kind of mixed up, let's go on to the wet ingredients. Now, obviously the star wet ingredient in this recipe, and the most exciting of all, both to add and consume after baking the recipe, is the Guinness. Guinness never used to be completely vegan because it was filtered through something called isinglass. I'm never really sure how to pronounce that, but it had something to do with fish bladders, I believe, or fish parts of some kind. Lovely. I believe it is not filtered through that anymore, but if you want to make extra sure, there are plenty kind of definitely vegan stouts, porters and dark beers that you can use as a replacement, but Guinness is the real thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure out our Guinness and then drink the rest. Okay, so we now have all of our wet ingredients, and at this point it looks quite horrendous. We have Guinness, as you just saw. We have also added rapeseed oil, 2 shots of espresso, but you can also replace this with instant coffee just mixed with about a tablespoon or 2 of boiling water. And we've also added in some non-dairy milk. I went for oat milk, you can use soy, whichever you like. Now we're just gonna give this horrendous looking jug a big mix up so that everything's nice and friendly together, and then we'll get it mixed in with the dry. Now you may be thinking, whether you're an experienced baker or not, that this looks like rather a lot of liquid, and it is. The cake, as I said, is super moist. It's not really the kind that you would use in place of a regular sponge cake because it is quite damp and heavy. But the good thing about that means is it's not going to be dry and awful. It's going to be rich, sumptuous, chocolatey, and I cannot wait to eat it. So let's let's get on with it. So we have our big ass bowl of dry ingredients, we have our wee jug of wet ingredients. You're going to just pour them into each other. I seriously overestimated the strength of my right arm here. And you will then just gently, and I mean gently, whisk this together. The only thing you want to be rough with is bread. Everything else, pastry, muffins, anything, you want to be nice and careful with it so that you don't activate too much of the gluten and make it tough. You just want to incorporate it into a nice, smooth cake batter that actually looks like something you'll want to eat. So the cake tins I have prepared for this recipe are little 6-inch cake tins. This will allow you to make 2 smaller 6-inch chocolate Guinness cakes, or you can make 1 larger 9-inch chocolate Guinness cake. So you'll notice that alongside the cake I've also wrapped it in some tin foil. This is just to prevent any leakage because this is quite a wet batter. So let's get the cake batter into the tins and get it baking. Okay, so I have divided, I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but I have divided the cake tins evenly with that cake batter, and now I'm going to bake it in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes at about 160 degrees for a fan oven, and that's Celsius before my American viewers start freaking out. Let's get them in. See you in 30 minutes. Okay, our cakes are finally baked and out of the oven. You can see how lovely and dark and rich they look with all that cocoa and all that lovely Guinness just nestled in there. They smell amazing. They're just about cooled down, so let me just talk you through how I make the frosting. Okie dokie, so the frosting looks pretty much like any other kind of regular, fairly soft vanilla buttercream. But it's not, is it? The basis of this kind of buttercream frosting is a dairy-free margarine or a dairy-free butter. I use Original Flora, which is available widely across the UK. You can find kind of similar margarines, but this is my personal favourite. Secondly, obviously, we need to add sugar. I just use a regular kind of icing sugar. Typically, when I'm making regular buttercream, the ratio is about 2 to 1, 2 parts sugar, 1 part butter. This makes it really easy to kind of scale up and down. Because butter is a bit more of a natural and subtle flavour, you can get away with using less sugar. Whereas when you're using a vegan margarine, which has kind of flavourings added to it, and always has that kind of oil taste in the background, you typically need a little bit more sugar. And that's coming from someone who doesn't like particularly sweet things either. To this combination of the butter and the sugar, I just add some vanilla. This isn't the brand I normally buy, but it's a widely available one, so it's one that I would recommend. Always get the best vanilla you can afford. It really, really makes a difference. If you can buy vanilla bean paste or actual vanilla pods, you will seriously notice how much better the flavour is. But this stuff will do the trick in a cake like this if you can't find anything else. So to that bowl, I just added a little bit of lemon juice and the tiniest pinch of salt and just kind of beat the living daylights out of it really. I did it while the cake was cooling so that you guys didn't have to endure too much of my chat, but here we are. Basically now all we need to do is just slather it on top of our individual cakes. Now each of these cakes are going to be 2 separate ones, but if you really wanted to, you could stack them up to make a layer cake, which I imagine would be bloody wonderful. But personally I like to just kind of slather the frosting on top because I think it makes the cake itself look a little bit like a pint of Guinness, which is always fun. So let me get onto that and then we can taste it. When I say slather it on, I really mean slather it on. There's absolutely no need to be delicate or ladylike here. Just blob it on and give it a good spread around. And that, folks, is it. That is the vegan Guinness chocolate cake. So easy, so simple, takes barely any hands-on time, and my word, don't you want to eat it. Just look at this. So this cake, let me just kind of see if I can give you the best lighting to show you just how gorgeously moist and dark this cake is. It completely gives when you put that knife into it. As you can see, it's not soggy, it's not kind of dry and crumbly. I'm so excited to eat this. So let me stop talking and get this crumbling cake into my mouth. It's so light, but so strong and rich with that boozy chocolate flavour in there at the same time. While it has the richness of alcohol, it doesn't have that kind of unpleasant burning that some really boozy fruit cakes and things can have. The texture, I'm just in love. It's amazing how a cake that has so much liquid in the recipe and looks so dark and heavy and stodgy can be so feathery soft in your mouth. The frosting adds this perfect touch of like gentle, bland sweetness, but bland in a nice way because it mellows out all the dark richness of what's underneath it. Nothing too sweet, nothing too sickly, just perfect with a morning cup of coffee, an afternoon tea, a nice kind of light dairy-free dessert. So, so good. I really, really love this cake. I love the simplicity, I love how easy it is to make, and above all, I like how it tastes. And of course, there is a load of frosting left over, and if you wish, you could use this to kind of pile on more than I did. I much prefer a bigger cake to frosting ratio, but if you want, you can pile this really high with it, or you can use it in another vegan recipe. You can sit it and eat with a spoon. I don't know, I don't care. Use it how you like. But I urge you to try this, whether you're vegan, whether you're not, whether you maybe have a dairy intolerance, or whether you just want to be a bit more experimental and open-minded in your baking. I would seriously recommend this. It's worth the few minutes it takes to make it. If you guys enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more recipe videos of vegan or not, hit me up in the comments below. Let me know the kind of thing you would like to see. I'm literally, as we speak, in the process of testing out some vegan brownies. I've had a few kind of misfires with them before, so we're gonna see how this goes. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a big thumbs up and to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we have more recipes, more vlogs, and more reviews coming at you all the time. I promise. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for the next one.